Thank you, David. It's a great initiative by you guys, and great to see some of the companies here, especially Azure and Phoenix are on my watch list. I've watched them for a while, so great to see them kicking goals. So I'll try and keep this short so we can make time for questions. So we're Dreadnoughts, and we'll give this a quick chat. Next slide. And we'll breeze through the disclaimer to the next slide. All right, so Dreadnought is a brief overview. As David mentioned, we have 4 projects within Western Australia. Each of those projects is quite a large scale project. I think we have over close to 10,000 square kilometers of Western Australia on ownership and exploration, and that's for a range of commodities. Dreadnought is an exploration company. We focus on boots on ground, making the discoveries and delivering those resources. And we've done quite a few of that over our very few short years of existence. Delivered the Orion discovery in 2021, and we're in the midst of delivering a number of rare earth and niobium discoveries in the Mangaroon project area, and about to embark on additional exploration and discovery processes across our gold at Mangaroon, our nickel at Mangaroon with First Quantum, and of course back up to the Kimberley with some more copper and gold discoveries hopefully to be made. We're led by Paul Chapman, Philip Crutchfield, Robert G, and we've just added Debbie Fullerton as our Chief Financial Officer. We have a very well invested company. We have board and management have put in close to $5 million of our own cold hard cash into the company to date, and we control about 15%. So we are certainly here to deliver shareholder returns through value creation by making discoveries and then finding the best ways to commercialize those discoveries to return money to shareholders. We'll move on to the next slide. I'll talk today a lot about Mangaroon. This is where a lot of our news flow is coming out of, and particularly where we have 3 rigs turning at the moment. Rare earths discovery that we made just over 12 months ago with our first drill holes into Yin, right next door to Hastings Yangibana operation, which is going into development. The entrance to their mine sits on our tenements, so to say we're neighbors is a bit of an understatement. And we also have in this region the carbonatites, which I'll talk more in detail on the next couple of slides. But before we move on, I want to talk about the gold. So we've consolidated the Star of Mangaroon, the lead gold mine, 2 Peaks, and we're very excited about the work that's going on in the background there with Sam Bassetti and Matt Crow out there as we speak. We actually have a diamond rig turning, twinning some of those holes historically. The place hasn't been drilled in 20, 30 years plus. And really going to start getting our eyes in, generating targets for later this year, early next year, getting out there and doing some discoveries on the gold front. The nickel, we have the First Quantum joint venture. We have about 5 high conductor plates sitting there within the money intrusion, and we'll be out there drilling those very, very shortly. So we're very excited about the Mangaroon project. It's over 5,200 square kilometers. It takes us 2-3 hours to drive from Yin up to the nickel prospects. So it's a very large land package, a lot of opportunity here. So rare earths is what we're focusing on. We'll go on to the next slide. We started off in just over 12 months ago and put our first drill holes into Yin, some of the thickest and highest grades rare earth mineralization this region had ever seen, which was quite significant considering that Hastings was going into development next door. We're probably the only rare earth player on the market that has a second mover advantage, and that's allowed us, before we even drilled that first drill hole, to know that we could produce a high quality monazite mineral concentrate, which is a very critical aspect of all rare earth projects before we even got stuck into it. So with the metallurgy confirmed before we started drilling, we were lined up and prepared to hit this thing pretty hard, which allowed us to put out our initial resource in 6 months, and we just put out our second resource update within 12 months of our first drill hole, which has given us 20 million tons of rare earth mineralization, including some high-grade components within that. Again, the metallurgy that we continue to do continues to show the production of a high-quality monazite concentrate at extremely high recoveries. I think that next door Hastings and Yangibana is around 83, 85. To date, we've seen 85 to 93% recoveries. There's nothing like that globally. When you look at a lot of the other main carbonatite resources around the world, you're looking at anywhere between 45 and 65% recoveries, and it's certainly a big selling point of this region. Quality monazite, quality concentrate production with good recoveries, and a very high NdPr trio ratio, which as we go into the global supply being dominated by neodymium and praseodymium, the higher ratio of neodymium and praseodymium in mineralization will become quite a significant selling point. Move on to the next slide. Stepping back out, you can see the yin resource there within the context of the wider Gifford Creek ferrocarbonatite complex. So you see Hastings resources and their ironstone scattered up there to the northeast. The yin resource, we delivered that 20 million tons. Our focus now is adding Y2 and a bit of mineralization to the north, and mainly really converting that to indicated so that we can deliver our scoping studies into this year, a lot of additional network, and really underpin and prove the economics of the ironstone while Hastings is next door getting into production. With the ironstone set aside, we're doing a bit of exploration work, feeding back in what we've learned from all the drilling over the last 12 months. We have some IP crews out there to see if we can start targeting some more ironstones, and also ground gravity crews. So we'll see what comes from that orientation geophysical work. And we're also going to be shifting our attention back towards our carbonatites, where we've recently put out some good results. So in addition to the ironstones, which are similar to Hastings next door, we also have potentially the source carbonatite intrusions for the region, which sit down there at C1 to C5, which sits right on the Lions River Fault, crustal scale structure, right where you expect to see carbonatites coming up, and also just on our side of the tenement boundary, which is always very handy. The carbonatites have a significant scale and grade opportunity. We're only at 25 to 30% of our way through even just the first pass assessment of those carbonatites. And already we're seeing a high quality, thick and high grade rare earths, niobium, phosphate, titanium, and scandium mineralization, all the things you expect to see in a well-endowed carbonatite intrusive complex. Moving on to the next slide. So a bit of a close-up of the bit of drilling that we've done to date. So all those white dots you see on there are holes that have been planned and not yet drilled, and we'll be drilling those here in the very near future. We recently put out some infill drill results from C3, which is that CBRC 15 to 121. You can see there we're getting 100 meters at over 1%, including 9 meters at close to 4 and 25 at close to 3. There's some quite good mineralization as we go in. That first pass wide space drilling, those white dots you see on there, those are 160 by 160 meter space drill holes, extremely wide space drilling. 1 to 2 of those holes is designed to hit something like Mountain Pass, which only has a 750 by 150 meter footprint. So it's very wide spaced. It's to find areas within the carbonatites where the mineralization sits, and we still have over 70% of that drilling to be taken. So there's a lot of upside opportunity here, and that's underscored by what we've seen at C5 in that last drill results, where we hit some quite near surface, high grade niobium mineralization, and also some thick mineralization associated with that. So very excited to see what the rest of the carbonatites will deliver for us. We're delivering the rare earth ironstones, get that converted to indicated so we can put out the scoping study, prove the economics on the ironstones, which are next door to Hastings, and then get stuck into these carbonatites, stuck back into them, deliver that first pass drilling. On to the next slide. Looking at that, the C3 footprint is a good example of what we're trying to do. We do the first pass 160 by 160, come back in, do an angled fence line of 80 meter spaced holes, and try and find within that anomalous zone areas of higher and thicker grade mineralization. So you see what we're seeing here is the supergene zone residual mineralization, which is quite common across all carbonatite complexes. That tends to be the first areas to get mined. It tends to be higher grade, as a lot of the critical metals that we're searching for within these are resistate and they accumulate in that weathering zone. And then sitting beneath that tends to be thicker and lower grade mineralization, like a lot of deposits around the world. Move on to the next slide. So upcoming catalysts for us, we continue to drill on the rare earths. We have the 2 RC rigs there, the diamond rigs now over onto the gold mine to get our eyes in for that as we continue to move on and prepare for the other commodities we'll be exploring for this year. We're preparing for the money intrusion, nickel PGE drilling. We've just completed that heritage survey and we'll be mobilizing out there as soon as we get everyone organized. And we have boots on ground at Central Yilgarn doing target generation work. We got surface geophysical and geochemical crews out there generating lithium and nickel targets. Come August, we'll be drilling on the gold. We're delivering our C3 initial resource and start mobilizing up to the Kimberley to deliver the follow-up discovery drilling on the Orion copper gold discovery. September, we'll be drilling away. We're getting results back. We'll be up boots on ground on Bresnahan, get into that target generation work on the heavy rare earths and gold and whatever else we find out there in that fairly underexplored region. And October, November, December, continuing to explore across our other commodities, hoping to not only continue to deliver the indicated resources to underpin the studies on the rare earths, but additional discoveries on the copper and gold, the nickel, and the gold and everything else we have sitting within our portfolio. Next slide. So takeaway message, we're a very, very active explorer. We continue to deliver a track record of discoveries across a range of commodities. We have substantial projects. We're here to make these discoveries. We're here to deliver the resources, prove the economics, and then find the best way to commercialize those assets, either through partnership, joint venture, or outright sale of those assets, or bring them into production via some sort of spin out or other options there. We have an experienced management team. We're very well invested. We have $4.8 million invested to date, 15% of the shareholding. So you can be rest assured that any decisions that we make for this company is to deliver value and return money to our shareholders, because we're shareholders ourselves.
Dean, a great presentation as always. Now, I should have mentioned 15 hour drive yesterday to get back from site to be here in time to talk to everyone today. So firstly, thanks for that.
No worries, a bit flat today.
You do look very sprightly considering the length of time you've been sitting in a car. Just come back from site. What's the mood? What's the feeling on site?
Oh, morale's always up on site, so getting fantastic results from the carbs, infill drilling on the ironstones, which is always exciting, seeing those thick intercepts out of Yin. Got our first diamond holes being drilled in, so twinning historical holes at the Star of Mangaroon and seeing what comes out of that, and doing all the boots on ground work and getting geared up for the second half of the year. I think we're all pretty excited about what lays ahead of us.
Step back a couple of years. A lot of what Dreadnought was really about was theories. What you thought might be there, what you thought you could find. You've done all the desktop work, but it was time to put the drill rigs in the ground. A great question here has come in. You know, did you honestly think 2 years ago, or a bit more than 2 years ago now, when you were listing, that you'd be where you are today?
That's always the dream. You know, there's never a guarantee in exploration. It's one of the things we always like to say. You know, we have to have the cricket season and footy season projects. We have 3-4 projects on the run. For every target we test, we want to be generating 5 new targets, because it's a very low probability of success in exploration. So all we could do was our best. We built a team that we've worked together a lot over the years. We knew what we wanted to achieve, and we knew how we wanted to achieve that. And so to see the fruits of that labor, it's certainly something that we're very proud of as a team. You know, you won't see a group more proud and making noise and things like that as probably the Dreadnought crew does. So it's a very close-knit group, and we're very proud of what we've done. And we look forward to continue to deliver. So it's been a lot of fun delivering the copper gold discoveries in the Kimberley. You know, when we did that in 2021, that was our main listing asset in 2019. You know, we pegged Mangaroon because there was no guarantee that we would have success in the Kimberley. And so to not only deliver that success and those discoveries in the Kimberley, and then deliver a number of discoveries at Mangaroon at the same time is very exciting. So we look forward to continuing to do that across the board.
So Mangaroon was your safety.
That was right. It was pegged as a replacement for the Kimberley in case the Kimberley fell over. That's right.
And another question's come through in relation to that is, so how do you now turn your attention, or make sure your attention? You've got 2 quality assets. One that, as you said, was, you know, if it didn't come up, we've now got another to look at, but you've now got 2 quality assets. How do you divide your attention and make sure they're both resourced adequately?
The quality of the targets always determine the best things that they're going to get funded. So we advance our projects. You know, to go out there and put a drill hole into something costs X, to put a resource on something costs 3X, and to generate a target costs very, very little. So we advance our projects, we give ourselves lots of options, and we look at and focus on what's going to give us the best return, what's the best, most attractive targets, and what can we deliver on resources. So right now, the rare earths have priority because the rare earths are quite critical, pun intended. And you also have, we had a very quick opportunity to deliver these resources and turnarounds on them within the timeframes that we had available. What we're doing now on the rare earths, we hope to be doing in the Kimberley next year on the copper gold discoveries. So prove up that scale, deliver those resources, and deliver that scoping study. But in the background, we got a team. I think there's there's 12 geos now, I believe, at Dreadnought. We have a very active team. All of us have worked together multiple times, multiple companies over the past. We know how we operate. And so each project is well looked after, and they're continuing to generate targets, and they compete with each other to see which ones are going to get the funding.
Now, I've got a really good questions come through in terms of cabanatite, sorry.
Yes,
cabanatite.
Yeah.
I've got to get it right one day. What's the significance of that mineralization at Yin?
The significance of mineralization at Yin. So,
yeah. What's the significance of that type of mineralization?
So Yin's quite interesting. So the Yangabana Ironstone complex, which has been known about for quite some time through Hastings' work and the companies before it, is that it has some of the highest NdPr trio ratios anywhere in the world. So when you look at, you go back 30 years, rare earths have always been something that, when Mount Weld was first being looked at, they were assessing Mount Weld because they needed cerium and lanthanum for red phosphorus and polishing, and then europium became a big thing. And it's really only on the back of the electrification, they're seeing the rare earth magnets boom that we're seeing as we go to an electric sort of future, that neodymium and praseodymium are making up the bulk of the value and focus on rare earths. But all rare earths tend to occur together in the mineralogy. And so you look at global rare earth demand now, neodymium and praseodymium make up between 30 and 40% of that. And by 2040, 2050, it's going to be 40 to 50% of rare earth demand is going to be made up of neodymium and praseodymium. But most global deposits, the mineralogy only has 15 to 20% neodymium and praseodymium in that. And so in order to meet the neodymium and praseodymium demand, you're going to have to double and triple production of the other rare earth elements that are less attractive, and it's going to flood the market in that. And so by having a region that has some of the highest NdPr trio ratios anywhere in the world, the quality and attractiveness of that con, if you're running a processing refinery, you're going to want to be putting through the con that gives you the most of the metals that you want per unit of con. And so it's a very attractive viewpoint from that. And that's why from day one, when we put our first drill hole in, we had people approaching us for offtakes. So, again, that second mover advantage, it's very useful for us, not only because it allowed us to produce a con very early, but because a lot of marketing and familiarity with that concentrate's already out there in the market. The carbonatites are slightly different. So the ironstones are these sort of late stage dikes that shoot out. Globally, there's really only one or two other places where those occur in any sort of economic sense. That's Finn in Norway. Generally, the intrusions, the actual source intrusions like we have at C1, C5, that's where the bulk of the mineralization is. That's your classic Mount Weld, Arasha, Naguala or Mountain Pass or anything else like that. Those are your sort of source intrusions. You get a range of mineralization in that. That's more classic bread and butter sort of style. And as we get through that, we'll find zones within those carbonatites that hopefully have high-grade niobium, high-grade rare earths, phosphates, whatever else those things produce, and we'll assess from there. It's a lot of opportunity. The significance of carbonatites, I guess, from talking about the exploration success, there are no guarantees. I think studies historically have shown there's a 1 in 10,000 chance of a prospect becoming a mine. And when it comes to carbonatites globally, it's about 1 in 10. So they're very attractive rocks to have. They're very unique rocks. They're very funky. They're stunning to look at. They're confusing. They're fantastic. But they tend to be quite economic.
Great answer. Last question. There's been a big push by Western governments that we've seen in recent years to really support, enhance, and be part of the development of critical minerals. Is that generating further interest in particular in your projects around not just investor interest, but offtake interest, partner interest, all of those sort of things? Yes,
and I think there's two things really underpinning the attention in rare earths and critical metals. One of which is the overall desire to go to electrification, and that requires the magnets, that requires the rare earths. We're seeing that increase in attractiveness in lithium. We're seeing that in rare earths following right behind in lithium's footsteps. But then there's a second one, and that's a supply chain issue, and that's the more strategic, and that's the US versus China. If you look at, or Western world versus China, wherever you want to review that appropriately, And that's creating a sort of a different dynamic within that. If you look at the capacity of creating magnets in China, there's already enough capacity to make magnets to supply the world's demand up to 2050. And so what you're seeing is there's going to be a demand to decarbonize the world, but then parallel to that is a demand to build that supply chain ex-China. And so as the new kid on the block, if you will, with no offtakes or any sort of legacy issues sitting in there, we do have a bit more flexibility to look at where we send our concentrate and to work collaboratively with midstream, downstream, or mining processors to come up with something that is aligned with those political interests.
Great. Well, thanks, Dean, for such a thorough presentation. Thanks for driving such a long way to be here. Dreadnought Resources, clearly a company to watch. If it's not on your watch list, maybe it should be. So, Dean, thanks for a great presentation.
Thank you.